where are you guys located?
Boise, Idaho.
Wow. I was going to say it's cold down here in Arkansas today. I just went outside without a jacket on, but I imagine it's pretty cold up there.
And overcast, which the inversion sticks around for a while. So it's the sun for about 3 months.
Oh, wow. It's a beautiful place, though. Beautiful area.
All
right. We got them all on. Yeah, they're all on. We're going to welcome everybody on the live and the replay. We've got a beautiful divine couple with us in the house. This ought to be really interesting. They've been nice enough to spend some time with us and share space with us and talk about their journey. This is what we do. It's a conversation. It's not a Q&A as much as it's a conversation. But let me play the short intro and allow people time to come in and share around a little bit. We'll be right back. So welcome everybody. A couple of quick announcements before we sit down with Jess and Dave. David Icke is coming on next month, first part of the month. I'm going to release the date 2 or 3 days beforehand, and for obvious reasons. And so if anything ever happened in regard to that show or any show, you can watch all of our shows every day on soulogynetwork.com, which will be expanding more and more and more throughout 2021. And I'll talk about that more later. Also, thank you, everybody, for your continued love and support and contributions that allow us to keep doing this by the seat of our pants every day. But that's the way we roll in this new earth and this 5D energy. We've got a beautiful couple in front of us, Jess, who's on the 7th, who has a great story in her own. I'm sure Dave does. And but just to take us back just to what precipitated this show, where you both have come on, you were into, I believe it was children's mental health clinician or something like that. And I think you said, Dave, okay, was it the other way around?
No. We don't work with children, but I do. We're both mental health. I'm a mental health therapist. He's a psychologist.
That's what I thought. Yeah. I don't know why I was thinking children, but I do so many shows, and we've had quite a few that do recently. But yeah, I remember you saying he was a psychologist. I was like, wow. I mean, so here we are in 2021 for all intents and purposes. And you made reference before we started the show to how are things going, which tells me that you're both very aware of the collective energies that are occurring. And then you have the extra set of eyes that you guys have been navigating this together. I think everybody would like to know, how did you guys meet? Who busted the move?
Can you hear?
Yeah. Okay. And just to let you know, Todd, my hearing isn't the best, so at times I might ask just to clarify for us.
Okay, no problem.
But, 8 years ago, we were both at a party together, and one of her friends came up and said, "My friend would like to meet you," and I went, wow, she's quite attractive. But at the time, I was on my spiritual kind of quest, and at the time, Jess was stepping away from the LDS church. And so we ended up having our first date 8 years ago, and I saw where she was at and how she felt in regards to religion and probably spirituality at the time.
Yeah, it was pretty atheist.
And I was very focused at that time in that, and it just wouldn't have really clicked. It would have been oil and water, I think, at that time. We would have had a lot of fun in ways, but I think that where you were at in your journey and where I was at, it just wasn't going to work. And then, about a year, and we run in similar circles, and then about a year and a half ago, we ended up having breakfast and really connecting in lots of different ways. And
here we are.
Yeah.
Was there some people, I've heard the similar story where they actually met and then came back years later. Some of them have talked about they saw or felt the uniqueness of the attraction almost to the point of it scared them. Did you guys have any type of inkling at all 8 years ago that there might be something going on?
She still scares me a little bit, but
that's how they keep you on your toes.
Yeah, I think we enjoyed one another's company, but didn't feel what you're describing.
Yeah, it was just it just wasn't a match at that time. Yeah,
that makes total sense. I often think, if I'd have met Morgan, 7, 8, 10 years ago, what would that have been like? I can't see us coming together at that point. There's no way. I can look back at like teenagers and I go, okay, I could see us doing it then. But of course, we're all a lot less conditioned at that point. So now, how much are you guys? And then there's no right or wrong, but I mean, what's your journey like in terms of a lot of these couples that come on the show? A big part of their daily life is what's going on in the world, what's going on in the universe, what's our role, what are we here to do together, and things like that. Do you guys go through that type of dialogue?
Well, we're navigating how to kind of come together more in that way. So I'm more kind of in that multi-dimensional kind of, realm, if you will. And Dave has had his own awakening process, but we're not currently swimming in the same stream.
Yeah, I'm more in the 3-dimensional world and like trying to play in the higher dimensional worlds, but I haven't really, developed mastery of that. So I know that Jess has these really amazing and powerful experiences, and that they're genuine and really amazing and powerful and beautiful to hear about. And in ways, it's hard for me to personally kind of bridge it because I haven't been having the experience like what you were talking about earlier, Todd, of really kind of transcendental, interdimensional stuff. So I think that it's hard for us to bridge at times in ways.
I mean, this is such a fascinating topic, and you guys are actually a great example of what I've been exposed to on the show quite a few times, much in the way I was introduced to it by Jess. And that is, there's this feminine, in the partnership who has access, let's just say, just like Morgan, Morgan and I were no different, who has access and has had access to this, what we might call higher level of intelligence or higher frequencies, or, I don't guess they call it women's intuition for nothing, right? They obviously have some type of connection, for the most part, more than a male incarnate is likely to. But then at the same time, what I've learned in talking to these women, when they talk about their partnership, is very much described the same way, almost like he's got it but doesn't know it, kind of thing. And, but what is remarkable about their stories is that they talk about how he holds the space and just somehow innately knows what his role is, even though it's not as fantastical as hers in running in that same environment, at least on the surface. But would you say that that's kind of how you guys blend together?
I would definitely.
Yeah. I think that
Yeah.
that is spot on, really. As you were talking, Todd, it's interesting for me that like the masculine and the feminine, and the masculine tends to be the leader, the explorer, and it's flipped in this film.
Wow. That's a showstopper right there. That's a mic drop. But that is true. Having talked to a lot of couples, you're right. And I haven't heard it before. Obviously, I heard it from Morgan a long time ago. And then more and more people have acknowledged it. When I talk to the couples, it's a little bit different in terms of what their perception is. But the bottom line is the consensus is that feminine is now leading the way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you're saying, which is a powerful statement.
Well,
Did you go ahead?
I think it appears like we're leading the way, but we're just coming into equality. It's not like we're not. I mean, it might feel like we're leading right now, but we're actually just like asserting ourselves equally.
Yes.
And it takes people off guard. Maybe. I don't know.
Well, and I think that it's okay and good for women to lead as well.
Yeah.
Like maybe men in third dimensional realm, that we lead better in certain ways than the feminine does. And in those areas that women, I think, operate much more effectively and collectively in that area than what you see generally with men. So my belief is that we do need more feminine to really save the world, our species, to transcend. However, I think that, including me, it can be really hard for the man to not be in that position.
That's where I was going. We're having telepathy going full blast right now. So that's where I was going with it, because I thought, oh, wow. So you're a psychologist. And I would just have to say, from my own life experience, that and I'm not a psychologist, obviously, but, just being familiar, having read a lot, earlier in my life, that psychology, to me, there is an element of of consideration of the higher frequencies. I don't know why I feel that way, but I would say that as a man, that's something that I think would have helped me a lot had I understood it more, because I've come across a lot of people that do. But having said that, and what you just said, from your perspective, and it's great that you're a psychologist, because that's really what I'm after. What kind of struggle or challenge has it been? How has the inner workings been for you as a masculine, as an example of a physical representation of an energy, to give up that power, to accept and allow? Has there been any fight, any resistance within yourself?
Oh yeah, surrendering doesn't come easy to me.
Did you hear that, Morgan Lee? Did you hear that, Morgan Lee?
And I think too, and in part, I grew up primarily with my mom and two older sisters, and feeling controlled and criticized and told what to do, even though they were being themselves and loving the best how they could given those situations. And so I'm more of a fighter, and so I learned to fight. And I think in the process, I see resistance where there isn't resistance. I see attack where there is an attack, in part based upon still that unfinished stuff. So really my growth edge, I think, in a lot of this is surrendering more.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. Morgan says she's listening. And I actually have, and I think this is not about Todd, but about Todd and Dave, and about the masculine energy and its physical representation on the earth, have, come a long way in terms of surrendering to her, which to me has actually, with that, come along a greater honoring and reverence and love and respect for her. And through that, finding my own feminine frequencies and energies that have really started to complement my masculine, my surrender and masculine self. So that's great to hear this kind of thing. You guys are both in the same field, yet was that part of the reason that you met? Were you in the same crowd?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I find,
to some degree, yeah. But kind of what brought us together again was more of the professional aspects of it, and so I tend to have ADD passions about things, and so I jump in and out of things pretty deeply. And so when we met, I'm still really deeply involved. It's called Rapid Resolution Therapy. And at the time, I felt very alone because it's a new therapy and no one in Boise knew anything about it. Anyone that I tried to share information with, it didn't resonate, or they weren't open to it. And Jess was very open to it and really connected with certain parts of the concepts of it. And so that was kind of a lot of fun of sitting and watching videos while having a couple cocktails and learning and together and laughing together. And so
that sounds like a good date night to me.
Yeah. And also, like we overlap on lots of different things, and Jess is deeply passionate about lots of things, and her spirituality, I think, has just really taken off in the last couple of years, and integrating that into her work with Yothera for me has been really cool and exciting to see what she's been creating and bringing the feminine into the mental health field, because it's primarily been a very masculine field, although most of the counselors are women. Most of the therapists have been men. And so she's bringing a whole new element to it with Yothera, which has been really neat to be part of, in seeing her create that, as well as supporting her in it.
Yeah. What a great energetic description of what's happening too, in my opinion, which is, you said it earlier, Dave, there's certain things that one gender is more inclined to do well, and vice versa. But to me, at some point I hit the point where I was like, okay, whatever I'm doing, whatever my attributes and skill set is, I'm going to run it by her, because her being, the physical representation or manifestation of my own feminine, but there's something about that. And if you look at old cultures, primitive cultures, Native American, they had the grandmother council, or they had many of the tribes. The final word went to the feminine energy, so it's good to be seeing that come back. You guys, is there a psychology? And when I think of psychology, I think of self-introspection, self-examination, and obviously a desire to become more aligned and balanced. Is there a psychology to what's happening right now? In other words, is there a newer, or let's just say a more mature perspective from the individual level that is more common, or growing in the populace in terms of what's happening in our lives and what's happening on the earth and so on?
Well, I don't know if you've heard of it, but Yothera.com.
No.
There you go. No, you can talk about that.
You are, I think, bridging the spiritual and psychological.
Is that what you're asking, Todd?
Well, yeah, I'm asking, just like with what you've created and what Dave got into in terms of a new stream out of psychology. Is there an evolving psychology from the individual's perspective that's not only there, but also something that's expanding among others, like in the collective, having a greater collective experience where the individual's psychological approach is superseding being fed whatever's being told to us?
I mean, my answer to that is I feel like people are coming to therapy now with this, with less of more of a personal sovereignty, for lack of a better word there, but just like I'm responsible for understanding my life and looking to the therapist as a guide, not necessarily like the authority as much as. Do you feel that as well? I mean, I feel that with my clients. Like they're coming to get guidance, and they're coming to understand new tools and how to understand themselves better. But that whole hierarchy of I know what's best for you is kind of going away more. How do you feel that?
I think that that's true. And at the same time, what I've been studying with rapid resolution therapy, a big part of it is that I'm responsible as a therapist to be the professional for my client's change, which is very different from past models, which is that change can only take place if the client is willing to do so. And so I think both ways and so I think that people are more informed, and I've seen over the years people moving more towards self-actualization, thriving, rather than surviving. They want more out of life. And people are probably more informed and more empowered now than they used to be in the past too.
Definitely.
Well, it sounds like Dave is what we would call an energy practitioner in these circles.
I know. I tell him all the time, I'm like, what that you're channeling. He's like, I don't know, it just came to me. That's called channeling.
And I'm really taking much more of a risk. Not risk with that, opening to it, surrendering to it, some might say. I'll say to clients, I just have this sense that, or it's come to me, and where are you with that? And generally, it's spot on. So I've really been trusting a lot more in that, and noticing even my own resistance of don't say it, in another person saying, no, do say it. And then I'll actually pause the session and say, I'm internally struggling now to say this or to not say it. And what I've learned is I'm just going to say it and we'll go from there. Yeah. And generally that's created moments that never would have happened if I wasn't open to it, because we would have gone down a different road. And that's been really helpful. And what I've gotten from Jess is really trusting more in that and opening up that way. And that's been very beneficial.
That's where I was going to go again. Telepathy's at full bore here. So in terms of since you, I will say reconnected, that's what, like a year and a half or so. How has each one of you, like you kind of just went into it a little bit, Dave, but how has your relationship affected, obviously it's affected all aspects of your life, but in terms of what your passion is, in terms of what, the human might call vocation, but in terms of what your passion is, how has the other or the relationship affected change within your practice?
Well, I personally don't feel like I could have birthed Thera without Dave. Like he is completely part of that equation. Like his stability, ability to hold space, like we talked about earlier, and just encouragement. Feel as a feminine, feeling like you're safe to relax allows that energy to flow through you. And if you're not with a partner that you can relax and feel safe with and secure with, you can't birth those creations. Literally, like he is just as much a part of it, for sure. Yeah,
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thanks. I like breathe. That's it. Hang in there, push. But it's been quite a journey for Jess, in a spiritually inspired journey of where she's been able to connect with guides and entities also that have really helped to create this new modality that she's doing. And so for me, it's been fun and an honor to be part of like a new modality, a new school of thought being born. That doesn't happen very often. I mean, it's actually quite rare. So for me, it's been a cool experience and an honor to be part of that.
Wow. Wow. What a beautiful testament to the relationship and to the energy of this ascending love energy that's taken hold on the planet in many forms. Now you mentioned rapid, what was it called? Rapid
resolution therapy.
Yeah, just listening to that, just the energy off of that, it reminds me a bit of Morgan has downloaded something in the same fashion that Jess has, and she did it for years. It's called 0 Point. And I would, maybe describe it as a fast track or even a faster track to a higher level of alignment and expansion. And of course, Othera is along the same lines. Can you both give us, just a brief description of the nuts and bolts of which each one of those modalities is?
You do rapid resolution therapy first.
This might take a while. This might not be too rapid.
This new era, Yeah. Ladies are supposed to lead in the new era.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding, but I'll go if you prefer that.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So about 2 years ago, a friend asked me if I had ever heard of rapid resolution therapy, if I was trained in it. I said no. And so I looked it up, and there was a TED Talk of a woman who went through the experience, and it was about 20 minutes, and I was like, I feel emotional, like so profoundly moved by what this man had helped to free her of and to empower her to really be herself again. That within an hour of hearing the words, I was signed up to like a 40-hour training. And so like it was synchronistic for me. So when I feel that alignment, then generally I'll just go unless it seems really, really stupid, and then about 50% of the time I'll still do it anyway. But so rapid resolution therapy, the founder of it figured out a way of being able to communicate with multiple areas of the mind simultaneously, so that the therapist is communicating with the conscious mind and the unconscious and primitive mind, in helping them to get into alignment. And so his belief is there's really no problem with the modern mind and the primitive mind, but they don't communicate so well. Mm-hmm. And that's why you've never seen a depressed zebra or a suicidal giraffe, right? But when you throw this crazy, amazing thing up on top, it allows us to create computers, to have meaning, to do all these things. But when they're not working together and they're not in sync, then if I think something, but I feel another, this is what has all the power. And so I can know something, but if this isn't in alignment, then this is always trying to drive the car from the back seat when this is in the front seat. So by helping this part update, and because a lot of what's not updated is past trauma. So anytime we're triggered by something similar to the past, our primitive mind goes, it's happening again. And also it has to do with programming of the stuff, all the misinformation that was given to us about ourselves and the world largely is down here. So I can know I'm smart, but I believe that I'm dumb, or I feel I'm dumb. So I believe it. That if I go, well, no, I'm smart, and I get this part to go, oh, no, that's true, I am smart, then I believe it, and I don't have to work in order to try to keep things in line. It's more of an alignment. And he does it through different forms of helping people get into altered states, languaging, symbolism, different activities. Probably the most creative individual that I've ever met. I'm just obviously fascinated by it. So
you're fascinating.
Yeah.
And I just got to say again, I'm not going to say it sounds like, but you are an energy practitioner, and these things that you just described in this process, really, if you just change the names of your present consciousness and your subconscious, or however you broke those up, to some of the words that might be the same ones Jess is utilizing.
Yeah.
You're talking about integration. You're talking about communication with aspects, which could be described as inner child, old memories, ancestral lineage, or galactic, or whatever.
Yeah, or true selves, or spirit or soul. Yeah.
Yes, it sounds like that you're speaking the same language, but on the surface, just different words. So well, I don't want to ask a second question because you haven't answered the first one, Jess, but on the tail end of the first answer, how much similarity is between the energy of Othera and what Dave just described?
It's actually quite similar, which is fascinating. Which is probably part of why we came together, actually. So Othera is breaking its mind, body, and then externally. So we talked a little bit about this last time, Todd, but Othera is 3-phase process where the first process is the mind, where we're breaking down defense mechanisms, cognitive dissonance, blind spots. And then the second is getting them in their body with their and getting them connected to their heart resonance and frequency, working with emotions, and then starting to rewrite this new story from a truer intuitive space of the body. So we get clear on what the old story or the old program is. Yeah. We can't really see consciously. And then we move into the body and rewrite it. And then the third phase is sharing it. So learning to be witnessed and things.
Wow.
In some real creative ways of sharing it too, like through dance, poetry, art, and it's a group format. And so they're really supporting and engaged with one another and helping each other to heal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right on. Wow. This is powerful. One of the things that's occurred in my relationship with Morgan in this, this evolvement of her, as in Morgan in this case, but her, the feminine energy, as you talked about, Dave, stepping into their power. And then, of course, as a result of that, surrender from the masculine side, giving up a kind of a false power and reaching that equilibrium and equality. But one of the things we've discovered, and you triggered me when you said the word witness, and she pointed this out to me months ago, and then it just continued to happen to where you just couldn't argue with it. And that was that she would experience something, I would call it like an activation or an elevation or epiphany or revelation or whatever you want to call it, and I would witness it. And then quite soon after, I would then experience it and she would witness me doing it. Have you seen any type of cycle like that in your relationship since you've been together this last year and a half?
Well, do you think? I mean, he's witnessed me birth, and I've actually witnessed him birth too. Because since we met, he's also created his own things. And so, yeah, it may not be in the same way, but I think we are holding space for each other. Yeah,
that's a good description of it.
Yeah. It feels to me like you're really on the fast track, and so I have experienced and observed really beautiful and profound things, of what Jess has been going through, and so I feel like I've been more kind of in that witnessing, and I haven't had, from my perception, as much kind of growth or shifting or transformation. Like you've really been coming into your own in lots of different ways and really flowering. That's what it seems like to me in it. And so to be honest, part of me is like, I don't know, a little insecure and jealous or wishing that I could have aspects of what Jess describes. Yeah. And at the same time, I call it happy envy, because I'm also very excited and happy about what she's been experiencing and what she's bringing in.
It's like seeing the world through her eyes. It's like you're seeing something you've never seen before, and then it becomes part of your reality, and you can start to dip into it. I know I can totally relate to what you're saying, Dave, and I can also say that there's been an involvement, and that level of that's disparity or space between my perception of who she is and what am I. You know, I've had to say to myself many times, if that's my partner, then I'm everything she is, even though it doesn't feel that way.
Yes.
I can see and do things I can't. But and then back to the psychology thing, I'm curious from both standpoints. Jess, you get introduced in a greater way with more clarity to those things that you are connected to and that you commune with and collaborate with, really.
Mhm.
So you had a certain obvious change and you talked about that in the last show. I'm curious. We'll go to Dave and then we'll go back to Jess because I want to hear how she responds. But in terms of, you're a psychologist, you obviously have a progressive mind. You looked into this new modality as an example that you were talking about. What was it like before you met the ET that you're now partnered up with, and after, in terms of your perception or understanding of these different energies that you're working with in your vocation that might have behind them these things that you talked about earlier that she connects to, these entities, these energies, these energy complexes, and so on. Did you have to go on a fast track when you guys started to get acclimated with each other and you started to understand the world through her eyes?
Before we got together a year and a half ago, I've always been studying spirituality and personal growth, and I've gone down lots of different rabbit holes. And so in anything that Jess was talking about experience, I don't think that I ever thought, I've never heard of that, at least the being in the ballpark, in the realm of it. So I don't think that there was ever anything that I thought, man, that's way out there from anything that I've ever read or people that I know that have shared about their own personal experiences. So I know that early on, Jess was hesitant to share some of her experiences with me because she didn't know me well enough to know that I was really open to it and believing in that people have those experiences. And fortunately, she has opened up and shares that stuff with me. And so it's kind of like, imagine living on a planet with people that can only see black and white, but certain people can see color. And then you talk to enough people who can see color, right? But you're limited, or maybe I'm not black and white. I'm probably colorblind, right? And just sees a much wider spectrum of things. And so it takes a lot of kind of trust for me on a level to go, okay, well, I get that you're having these experiences and I'm not. You're seeing all these different colors, but I'm not. But I believe you in your experience, and you're sharing with me what your truth is of that. So for me, that's been pretty cool. Like kind of to be in the know, but not in the game. Maybe I don't know of how to say that. And in ways, I think that you were kind of referring to the side of that when you open to that, you're much more likely to start experiencing and seeing it yourself.
Yeah. Yes.
And so I'm hoping that I have more of that, because I really have had a drawing passion to it, but it's felt like I've spent a lot of time and work and energy, and maybe my expectations were too high and me not getting the payoff, and then I kind of have just given up, and I'm kind of in a lull of that right now.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that, and you gave me a great follow-up for Jess too, but I, like the things that I was exposed to immediately, I was open to with Morgan, but I also had this, which is interesting because to me it is psychological. I had some type of wall or belief system or overlay that was kind of holding me back in unconsciously, I wasn't conscious of it, because I thought it was going to be, even though I had had some divine episodes and stuff, I thought it was going to be like, something that was just unarguable, something that wasn't subtle, that wasn't intuitive, that wasn't in my imagination. And I soon came to find out that, when I let go of that expectation, those things really started to roll in. And again, it was a lot of it had to do with the witnessing and experiencing, because I was able to see it through the mirror that she was. Now, it sounds like that Jess kind of spoon-fed you, and such is the wisdom of the Sacred Mother, right? To kind of test the waters and give you what you could take. And I can also resonate with that.
Quarts of water.
Yeah, exactly.
they got you.
Many times I told Morgan in the early years that, hey, if you know something, tell me. And she said, well, why would I want to take it away from you, or you discovered on your own, or or basically you're still integrating this information, and you've got to get that anchored in and embodied before you can take on more. So again, such is the wisdom of the Sacred Mother. But Jess, from your standpoint, you're hooking up with a psychologist, and I realize you're in the same field, but you're in left field, or you're not even left field or right field or center field. You're in the outer field, outside the stadium walls.
Build the dreams.
Yeah, right. Were you apprehensive? Did you give it any thought, or was it more of a synchronistic kind of serendipitous flow where you just knew, as to do what you do when you do it, to mention things to him and that type of thing?
Well, I think I've told you this. So before I even came back around to Dave a year and a half ago, I had a dream that I met this man. He was sitting at a coffee shop. He was writing in a journal, and he had white hair. Sorry, honey. Yeah. But yeah,
mine's almost there.
Yeah. But I was, and I kept having this dream, and then when he came back around into my life, I was like, I got it. Thank you. Like I was like listening, and I was, my human self was apprehensive, because I was like, I'm coming into this spiritual, like, awakening, if you will, like for the second time, and I don't know if I can be with someone that's quote not or whatever. But I still feel like it was completely meant to be. I still do. And so I'm really glad I followed that.
Right on.
Yeah. And you had a couple other kind of profound dreams of, like, wasn't it like someone in a boat and like you're drowning, and then someone.
Oh yeah, I had another. This was more of like an insight or a vision that I had, but I was a woman and I was building a fire. And in this vision, all these men kept coming and dumping water on my fire. But then this man right here, that I wasn't aware of was him yet, came and brought wood and put it on the fire. And then, so this
like a bee pollinating the flower he was talking about earlier.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So, I just followed those and slowly spoon-fed, like you said.
No, and I think too, at times historically, you've had men in your life that felt more threatened by it, in
threatened,
not as much supporting,
threatened by my power, if you will,
in intelligence, creativity, in how you manifest, how you are able to draw things in. So.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've learned in my relationship with Morgan too, at 59 years old, over these last 2-3 years, as I've gotten to know her deeper and deeper and deeper, and hear and have a fuller understanding of her life's journey, the human experience and all the things that entails. I said to her just the other day, so why have these men been like this? And I'm not just talking about her life journey. I'm talking about the template out there where, for instance, women being overly subservient, or men, more specifically, men being dominant or being, controlling. And I said to her, is it just that they were threatened by your power? Is that how this thing works? And she said, yeah. But I never really fully understood that until just, probably in the past year. So yeah, a lot of great information and code and revelations coming out to all parties involved, right? One of the topics that has been circulating more and more, especially in 2020, as more unions such as yours have come together, has been in the area of intimacy, not intimacy in the old format, but sacred sexuality, something very ancient, something very pure, something not distorted, obviously. But in terms of before you got together, or let's say past relationships, like you mentioned before, and the one that you're in now, has there been a notable difference in your level of intimacy in this relationship? And I'm not just talking about, when we go to sleep at night or whatever. I'm talking about holding hands. I'm talking about being partners. I'm talking about interacting with each other day in and day out. Is there a distinctly different scenario here in this relationship as opposed to the relationships you both had in the past?
You first.
Yeah. For me, in ways, yes, and in ways, no. I find that we spend a lot more time connecting in the morning, in the evening, or getting home from work, which then that really helps us to align our energies, I think, better, because both of us are so creative and active in our worlds that creating that time and space for one another really, I think, helps us to ground and connect and be much more in alignment, which I've found to be very helpful. Jess is very loving and affectionate, and more so, I think, than generally what I've experienced in the past, which has been really sweet for me. Yeah.
No.
What?
Yeah, I think that, there's like a new way of thinking about intimacy. Like, I feel like we're all moving out of this idea of we have to do everything together and we have to do the same things and feel the same about everything. And it's like, I don't know. I'm personally exploring what deeper intimacy can look like from a more like sovereign relating space.
Right.
We're not necessarily seeing the same things and into the same things, but that we can still connect at the deeper levels. Because I feel like that's actually what's needed, is for more people to come together that do have more differences, see things differently.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Yeah, I mean, how are we going to have oneness if you can't have it with the person you're closest to?
Yeah, exactly.
Like full acceptance, the old programs, and I'm sure as being in the psychology field, it's your part of your bread and butter. I mean, it's the loops, the codependency, the toxic relationship patterns. What you're saying is respecting the individuality of the other person,
Yeah.
and not just giving a lip service.
Right? Yeah, and not trying to change.
Yeah.
That's a work in progress. Not trying to change your partner. And yeah.
So you guys are now. Boise is a pretty good sized town, city, but you are in the same, and you met because you were in the same professional genre. Let's put it that way. So I'd imagine that, being that you've both been there a while, that you've got quite a few people that that you both know, right, in that circle. Have you noticed at all when you've gone out socially or otherwise, whether it be virtually, I don't know what you do online with people or whatever, have you noticed have you noticed anything in terms of, let's just say, your illumination, your magnetization, the attention that maybe you draw? Have you noticed anything like that? Whether it be, hey, wow, you guys are beaming like the sun, or triggering the hell out of people?
Triggering the hell out of people. I don't know if we, I think people are not surprised we're together that know us. That's my sense. Yeah. They're not surprised.
Well, early on with all this COVID stuff that's been going on, I mean, we were getting out a lot more socially than we have recently, and doing some really fun, creative, kind of crazy stuff together. That was real exciting. And then we've managed to like travel together, do stuff like that together. But most of the time, I think when we've been going out, it's largely just been the two of us. Mm-hmm. So we really haven't been in a whole lot of social context to answer that or to know if it is or if it's not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have a feeling you guys are like a light bulb. Like a huge light. You mentioned earlier in the very top of the show, to some degree or another, about I guess the field of potential in terms of combining, which you're already doing, but I mean, more at a more conscious level, combining your passions, basically, because they're very similar, obviously. A lot of people in these circles too, over the last year or so, as these couples have come to the surface, have talked about the third energy that's created when two or more come together, which is really front and center with these couples. Are you guys feeling that? Are you curiously, maneuvering or considering or attempting to initiate some type of consolidation or expression modality, whatever it is, initiative from an equal representation of both your energies?
Well, the golden child came through me, so, and then I'm introducing it, spoon feeding, introducing it to, but,
In the golden child, this is interesting, is last fall, one of my clients who doesn't know Jess, who is pretty clairvoyant, psychic abilities, and I'm not sure. Oh, I think that. Okay, I'm not. Okay, great. So this client of mine, we would go on walks periodically, and then one day she says, there's this little boy that keeps showing up around you, and he keeps trying to get my attention to communicate to you. Yes. And he's about 4 or 5 years old, and he's really like excited and playful. And so then I came home sometime that week, and Jess had said the same thing, and I'm like, holy shit, So and so it's one of those things that for me, I can't deny. Like I call myself the hopeful skeptic, because things have to be kind of scientific for my brain to get it. And having two independent reporters that don't know one another say the same thing.
Well, one of them's your partner, and she happens to be Samantha. You're like Darren, and she's like Samantha in Bewitched.
Right.
Or the astronaut with the genie, right?
So the third energy is here for sure. Yeah. We just haven't figured out, I think, yet how to really integrate and use it to serve our relationship. Mm-hmm. So we're kind of in that space.
Yeah. And I think to give the audience a little more clarity, if they didn't catch the first show, Dave made reference immediately to the golden child, and that's a great story. But maybe, Jess, you want to just kind of go back over your experience, what the golden child meant to you and what the experience with it has been, so they might have a better understanding of what he was just referring to.
Sure. Yeah. So just briefly, I started to see this little boy that was coming through, literally a golden little boy that was coming through in my meditations. And then also not in just in my meditations, like he would come in, he was kind of always there. And he specifically came in to show me Yothera method, which is what I believe is the Christ consciousness birthing through me. Mm-hmm. So, he would kind of show me in visions how to do things and what needed to happen. And so he was kind of my guide. He was this innocent little guide. And then, and so that's the golden child that came through.
And then he shared that he was the Christ consciousness energy. And it seemed like there was kind of a shift at that point. Or...
Yeah, he shifted eventually. Like there was a point where he shifted into a man and showed himself to me as like the Christ or the energy of Christ. And then after that, he kind of went away for a while. So he actually doesn't come around as much anymore, but I feel him now as when I see him, I see a human child. Like as a child, but not the Christ.
Wow.
It's
It's
really
funny. It's funny how the guides pop in and then all of a sudden they pop out. You know.
yeah, it's kind of annoying.
In regard to I'm just curious, and I know everything's a metaphor and everything is an energetic, behind it. But in terms of the linear timeline, where did the appearance of the golden child fall in relation to the timeline, and specifically in relation to when you guys connected a year and a half ago?
Well, I started seeing this little boy, not the golden child. I started seeing this little boy last April or May of 2020.
Okay.
But the golden child for me came in on the equinox, so September 20 something. That's when he came. The golden child came in.
Wow, that's
But the little boy came in earlier.
So which was how long after you guys got together?
6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So you guys got together in March, basically, right?
We got together in October 19.
October 19. Okay.
Yeah, and then he came in like April or May. So
Okay.
I guess a little long. Yeah.
Okay, I got you. Yeah. I was off on my I don't know when equinoxes and all that stuff happens.
Yeah.
Wow, powerful conversation, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Really, I hope we get to see you guys in Sedona next time you go. You're gonna have to give us a heads up.
Yeah,
Definitely.
sounds great.
Yeah, there's a lot of subjects we could dig into, both with you as a couple or each one of you individually. You both have that perspective, from the psychological standpoint, which I love because it is very much about self-empowerment. If you have the desire, obviously, and as Dave talked about earlier, what he's seen in the evolvement of his client base and what their characteristics are, as opposed to, they were maybe a few years ago. So I'd love to collaborate with you guys down the road in 2021. And I just want to say, on behalf of everybody, thank you for what you're doing, your service to humanity, and thank you for showing up here and showing up in general and honoring us with your presence.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well,
It's
thanks.
an
I
honor.
really appreciate it.
Thanks, Todd.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure meeting you both. I hope to see you in the flesh. Y'all take care.
Look forward to it.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace out.